Aloha Aina, and welcome to Voices of Truth One-on-One with Hawaii's Future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Ehuke Kahu Cardwell, and here we are today on the island of Oahu. And I'll tell you this right now, we have a fascinating guest on the show, so let's go on over here and meet her. Leilei, aloha.
Aloha.
Leilei Shih, did I say your name right?
You did.
Wonderful.
Wonderful to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Tell us where we are, Leilei. This is beautiful here.
Thanks. So this is Kaneohe Bay. We're in Kaneohe Bay right now, and this over there, that's Coconut Island. That's home to the Hawaii Institute of Marine Biology, where a lot of really exciting marine research takes place, studying Hawaii's oceans and what's in them and everything that is happening with them.
And the reason you know that is because you work over there, yeah?
Yes, and so I'm actually a PhD candidate at the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and this is actually my research site. I study an invasive sponge that is in this bay right now. So I have field work set up here, and I have some labs here that I use for my research.
Wow, so you're checking out an invasive sponge.
Yes.
That is doing bad things in this water, huh?
Well, we want to be careful. So in science, we want to be careful to not necessarily say if something is doing something good or bad. I mean, some things are clearly bad. If there's an invasive species that's killing hundreds of endemic birds, you know, we could say that's a bad thing. But this sponge is actually relatively new in the bay. It was only first spotted in 1996. So, and it is an invasive species. It does compete with space for coral. So if some of the sponge grows, then coral can't grow. And of course, coral is very important to Hawaii. It provides habitat for the fish ecosystem and also just infrastructure for the reef in general. And that's where we get surf and everything else. So, you know, it is of concern. It's a sponge that was not here before, and now it is. Now, sponges are incredibly interesting because they pump a lot of water through their bodies. That's kind of what they're known for. They can pump between hundreds and hundreds of thousands of times their own volume of water through their body each day. So they have tremendous ability to actually alter the chemistry in the water. They have very active microbial communities. Like within our gut, we have very active microbial communities. So when they're pumping this water through them, they're actually changing the nutrient profile in the water that's flowing through them. I love the ocean. Ever since I was a little girl, all I wanted to do was go to the beach or go to the tide pools and play and look for little things. So it's something that I have been involved in even before I got into academics. So I've always been involved in a lot of environmental initiatives. I actually grew up in California, and so there I started out helping out with beach cleanups, and then also I was testing water quality to make sure that the water was clean for surfers in Northern California. And that's, you know, it really builds this sense of stewardship and kuleana, you know, connection to the oceans. Like, it's something that you want to protect because you love, and it's so important to you. You know, more of the planet is covered with water than it is with land, and our life obviously depends on it. The reason why I continue to care so much about all of the issues that I work on is that I'm actually immersed in it. You can see the mountains, you can see the land, you can see the oceans. I mean, when you see it and you're in it and you're experiencing it, that's how you really continue to care and love for something. When I moved here, one of the first issues that I worked on was trying to get a statewide plastic bag ban implemented. And I was working with Surfrider Foundation and Sierra Club as my platforms to achieve this. And it's something that I worked on for over 4 years, actually. So, you know, plastic bags, that's probably one of the types of plastic litter that we see the most of. It's probably one of the least necessary forms of plastic that exists.
You're involved with some other things besides plastic bags, yes? In terms of environmental issues?
A couple other things,
all right.
Yes.
Tell us what else.
As I'm a graduate student at the University of Hawaii, I worked on a couple of issues there. One was I got the initiative to ban styrofoam at the University of Hawaii started and very far along. And then another thing that I worked on at the university is we got the Board of Regents to divest their endowment from fossil fuels. We really had the support of the community via Sierra Club and 350.org, and really just a lot of individual members that were that were expressing that this was important to them. What's probably most exciting about this is at the time it made us the largest public university to divest from fossil fuels. So we weren't the first by any means. I think we were the 30th university, but we were the largest public university, and I think that's something that Hawaii should be super proud of.
Leilei, you shared with us the fact that you were involved in a couple of environmental issues here. One was getting plastic bags out of Hawaii. Mm-hmm. The other one was getting styrofoam out of Hawaii.
We've gotten styrofoam banned at the University of Hawaii. Right now we are currently trying to get styrofoam banned at the state level. I believe it's been happening at the county level, but not on Oahu, but we're definitely trying to do it this year.
Okay, now, in both of those issues, you ended up being the one spearheading those, yeah?
Oh, for styrofoam at the University of Hawaii, yes. I haven't been taking the lead on the state effort or the county efforts, although I will absolutely be involved in those. Those are issues that I care very much about. But the plastic bags, yes.
Yeah, okay, so why did you spearhead those? Why do you care so much about those, Leilei?
Well, so marine conservation is something that I have been interested in for a very long time. I'm an avid diver, surfer, kayaker, anything that's in the ocean I love to do. I've been scuba diving 25 years now.
Really?
So I see everything that's in the ocean. So, and of course, you know, what we see a lot of in the ocean is litter, and in particular plastic litter. And both plastic bags and styrofoam are forms of plastic that really are unnecessary to our livelihoods. Plastic bags only came to be in the 1980s, so it's not like as a civilization we evolved to need plastic bags. It's actually it's very easy for us to not use plastic bags again. Both plastic bags and styrofoam are very, very light, and they break down and they fly away and they end up in the ocean, and fish and other marine animals try to eat them. So they're just items that are unnecessary in our lifestyle, that break down, not biodegrade, but break into small pieces, make their way into the ocean and get eaten up by marine life. So they're just issues that really should be solved easily and quickly and are important.
Okay, so you've been scuba diving for 25 years, quarter century you said.
Yes.
Can you share with us the difference between what you saw when you first started scuba diving and what you saw 10 years later, 15 years later, and 25 years later with respect to these issues?
I can. So I mean, when I first started scuba diving, I definitely saw much more colorful, vivid reefs with a lot more life on them. And you know, one of the reefs that I dived early on was the Great Barrier Reef.
Really? Down in Australia?
Yes, down in Australia. And when I dove there, it was the most colorful, incredible thing I'd ever seen. It is, if you imagine a coral reef and then just like blow it up in size, it almost was a parody. All the fish were big, the reefs were so colorful. It just seemed like a whole nother world. So when I saw it, I think it was pretty close to pristine. And as you probably were aware of, they're talking how great swaths of the Great Barrier Reef have been dying.
The coral's dying there.
The coral is dying due to bleaching, due to rising sea temperatures. And why that is important is that rise in temperatures cause coral to expel their symbiotic algae. And that happens, it's a natural occurrence. It does happen when we get natural fluctuations in temperature. Coral do expel their algae, but then what happens is over the next few months, as temperatures return to normal, they uptake their algae again and they recover, and then they kind of go back to normal. So that's happened historically with natural climate cycles. But with global warming now, what's happening is it's hot more frequently than it ever has been. And when these coral lose their symbiotic algae, they never get the chance to recover. this used to be an event that maybe happened once every several years or once every decade, and now it's happening every single year. So the coral are expending so much energy, expelling their algae and not even getting to the point where they can reuptake their algae, and therefore they remain bleached. And they'll die after several months if they don't retain their algae. And that's kind of what's happening with reefs worldwide.
All right, so that's what's happening down the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, a lot of other reefs. What are you seeing in Hawaii here when you dive in the difference over the years?
So I would say that the first time I dove in Hawaii was maybe 20 years ago, and I recall slightly more life on the reef, slightly more color on the reef. And now when I dive here, especially on Oahu, I don't see a ton of living coral. I do actually see living coral in Kaneohe Bay. Kaneohe Bay is a remarkably resilient ecosystem. But in most parts of Oahu, the coral kind of has algae fuzzy growth on it, and it's crumbled, and you might still have fish, but it's definitely not a healthy or pristine ecosystem. And I think that has to do with the fact that the shoreline here is heavily used. We really can't do much to stop growth here. Then our responsibility is to do it as well as possible, as smart and as consciously as possible.
Don't you think what we do in Hawaii here could actually be a model and showcase for the world?
Absolutely. So again, Hawaii is such a unique place where we're an island. There's a culture that is deeply rooted with the land and the oceans. And not that long ago, population greater than this size was able to subsist off the land, and we should really be moving back into that direction. Hawaii,
yes, and
absolutely.
nothing was imported.
Nothing was imported, yes, and it's just really surprising and sad to know that over 90% of the food that we have now is imported when we have so much beautiful land. We have so much great ag land that we should be growing healthy local foods on for ourselves. And that would also really bring down the cost of living here too if we didn't have to import everything. But Hawaii really does have the opportunity to be a model for everywhere else. We've got ample sunshine, we've got people who care, we've got amazing resources, and you know, we have been leaders in many ways, you know. Governor Ige's commitment to the Paris Accord, I mean, the plastic bag ban, solar, we grew, I think at one point we were growing faster than any place in the nation. So in some ways, we are leaders, and we can really continue to be leaders. We have everything, we have all the potential.
Great. Okay, Leilei. Now, I know a lot of people know that plastic bags are bad for the environment, and they know that styrofoam, certain types of styrofoam, are bad for the environment. But most of those people don't get out in front of an issue like you do.
Right.
So why you? Why did you decide, I got to get out in front of this and help blaze the way?
You know, it's sort of, so I guess that my interest was just kind of, I don't know, I think I was just born an activist. It's kind of hard to explain, like, why do you know, what got you to care? I just kind of always have cared. And I think part of it is just, ever since I was little, I was really drawn to the ocean, and I felt really connected to it. And when I saw litter or pollution, it made me want to react and do something about it. And I'm also naturally a scientist. When I was little, I was always drawn to science and nature. So all of these things just really came together. I'm really lucky that I get to do something that I love and just care about. I mean, I don't do it necessarily because I feel like I should. You know, I do feel like our public officials should be doing things because they should. But for me, it's really because I want to, and it's something that I care deeply about. And over the years, I've kind of learned what are effective ways to tackle the issue. So I mean, definitely when I was younger, when I was a teenager, and through college, I was more of a chain myself to a tree type of activist. I did that, and you know, those oftentimes were actually successful in their own ways too. But at some point, when you want to work with the community and you want to work with policymakers, there is a most effective route. If you want to get your word out, there is a way to get your message out via the media, via op-eds, things like this. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Leilei, what's the cost for all of us if we don't get these things under control, if we don't deal with them?
Wow, the cost of all of this, if we don't deal, I don't know if we can actually put a price tag on it. I know that there have been price tags put on coral. This could be wrong, but I think coral reefs are valued at something like $900 billion. But I think it's really difficult just to put a price tag that we can really even understand if we're
You
not.
can't go out and buy another coral reef if this one dies.
You can't go out and buy another coral reef, and you're not just losing the coral, you're losing the habitat for the fish, so you're losing your source of food. If you care about surfing or diving, the waves break over reefs, you're losing your surf, but you're literally losing your subsistence lifestyle, anything that's left of it. When it comes to climate change, if we're not working hard enough and fast enough and smart enough to deal with climate change, we're going to have sea level rise. We've already seen it. We experienced the king tides. That's really just a preview of what's going to happen. We're going to lose a lot of not just oceanfront property, but for everybody. Everybody is going to have to move inwards, and it's not even just property. This affects our water supply. We'll get saltwater intrusion, and of course, just like loss of land. So I think the cost of not doing a lot of these things, it's really hard to put a price tag where we can really go, oh, is it worth it to do this or not? I mean, it's black and white. These are issues that we must address.
Yeah, they got to be addressed because whatever happens out there affects us right up here.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's not either or, it's
Right.
all interconnected, and we will pay the price out here.
We will pay the price, absolutely.
I know we're standing over here and looking over beautiful Kaneohe Bay, and this is on the windward side of Oahu.
Yes.
However, on the west side, the dry side in Waianae, you have a project that you created that you're
Yes.
also very passionate about, yes?
Yes.
Let's cross the street here, see if we can avoid cars, and you tell us about that.
I really wanted to encourage a land-to-table lifestyle because Hawaii is the perfect place to do it. Otherwise, we're forced to import our food. The food is not fresh, it's not grown locally, and it doesn't support our economy. And of course, cost of living here is so high already. It's also just a very healthy lifestyle to follow. So there's something called the Blue Zones project right now. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blue Zones, but
Tell us what that is.
so Blue Zones are specific areas in the world where a large proportion of the population has managed to live more than 100 years old. And there are several around the world. I think there's one in Sardinia, Greece. There's one in Italy, there's one in Loma Linda, California, there's Okinawa, and then there's another one in Costa Rica. And what they did is they looked at, how are these people living their lifestyles? What are their common lifestyle practices that enable to live these long, healthy lives? They enumerated a number of qualities of their lifestyle, and it included everything from moderate, consistent exercise. So they're not talking CrossFit, but people that took like 30-minute walks several times a week, plant-based diets, heavy in legumes, sunshine, good social network, good family network. Gardening was a huge component of it, and actually empowered women was an important component of it. They found that if all individuals of society were equally empowered, then the society as a whole benefited, which makes sense. So a lot of places around the country are trying to emulate these Blue Zones because of course we want our communities to be as healthy as possible. I just wanted to bring one component of it to these communities. So gardening and eating a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables is important to that healthy lifestyle. So I wanted to fill that component of the Blue Zones. I mean, everything you can. Gardening is a light, moderate activity. Also, you're getting your fresh local foods. And also just the act of gardening is good for your health, to actually have your hands in the soil. They've found that like being exposed to those good microbes is actually good for your health. Just like we're supposed to encourage our children to play in the dirt. Adults should play in the dirt too. You get all kinds of great chemical compounds from it that are good for you. What I created is a community farm for 6 residential communities out on the west side. And the idea is that everyone comes together. We have community gardening days a couple of times a week, but the community garden is also open to them to go garden whenever they want. Gardening is very therapeutic. So if they need a little bit more socializing in their lives, then they come to our community gardening days. If they need to garden in more of a meditative, decompressing way, they can go garden on their own time. Either way, everything that is grown there is for them. They're welcome to pick and harvest whenever it's ready. If they need something, if they're making their omelet and they need some tomatoes or some basil, they can just go right down to the garden and get it fresh. That's the idea, is that it's there for the community to work on together, and it's for all of them. And so far they're loving it. We had our community planting day 2 weeks ago. We had about 50 people show up, and
really?
Yeah, we had so many people show up that everybody actually only got to plant one thing. So it was a very quick community planting day, but it was so exciting to have that. We definitely have some space to expand if we want. So we started out just with 15 raised box beds and then a couple rows of fruit trees, and we have room to double it. So I think if community members continue to stay involved, and I think they will, because we have more help than we actually need. It's not about the help, it's about coming together as a community. But they're loving it, and I think that it will continue to flourish. This one was for 6 specific communities. They're the type of community that they don't have very large backyards, so they can't garden at home.
So you already knew that?
I already knew that. Okay. And there are a number of community gardens. So there are the ones for the city and county, but a lot of times you have to be on a wait list to get a little plot. And then there are large farms that you can go volunteer on, but you have to go on those specific volunteer days. I really wanted this to be like an open community farm where everybody goes on their own time if they want to. They're allowed to harvest. Really think of it as their own. It's not this awesome organic farm that I go visit when I want to, but this is actually my community farm. I wanted them to have that feeling. So that's kind of like the niche that I was trying to fill.
How big do you think you want to take this?
Well, I mean, at some point I really would love to see the state come together as a whole to make a commitment to increasing food production. In the past there have been bills that wanted to double the amount of food production in the islands, and I really would like to see something like that successfully go through, and then we can, implement more things on a broader scale, because a community garden is great. It's really feel good, and it's really great for the hundreds and thousands of people that get to benefit from it. But we really want the entire Oahu community to experience something like this. And not everybody wants to garden, and not everybody has the capability to do it, but I think fresh local food is something that should be an option for everybody. So if we can make better use of ag land, protect our existing ag land, and then also make better use of our ag land, not only will we have healthier, fresh food for everybody, but we'll also bring down the cost of food, which I think is really important.
Wow. Leilei, Voices of Truth One-on-One with Hawaii's Future airs not only throughout Hawaii, but in markets around the world. So it's very possible that somebody right now on the other side of the world is watching you and me, and they're going, boy, what she's doing is really exciting. I wish I could get out there and get involved in my community and make a difference like she has. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say to you, going out into your community and making a difference, it's not only fun, but it's incredibly rewarding, and you'd be surprised at how much you can accomplish. I mean, there's are more like-minded people out there than you think. A lot of times, if you have conversations with someone who you might even think is on the opposite side, if you have a conversation with them, you actually realize that you have a common goal or something similar that you care about, and somehow you came to different conclusions. But when you have a conversation and realize you're actually on the same side, oftentimes you can find a solution that works for everybody. And that's really how you make things happen.
Wow, that's amazing. Inspiring story. And you know what, Leilei, that's where we have to leave it. Okay. Mahalo for being on Voices of Truth One-on-One with Hawaii's Future. Please don't stop. Please keep doing what you're doing. And mahalo to you for joining Leilei and me here overlooking Kaneohe Bay. Remember, you can watch us on the web 24/7 on voicesoftruth.tv.com, and you can like Voices of Truth One-on-One with Hawaii's Future on Facebook. I'm Ahuke Cardwell for the Kuani Foundation, along with Leilei. And until next time, ahui ho!
Ahui ho!
Mahalo for watching Voices of Truth One-on-One with Hawaii's Future. Watch us on the web 24/7 at voicesoftruth.tv.com. You'll find all our shows, including this one, in case you want to see it again or share it with family and friends. Also view our weekly video commentaries at freehawaiitv.com. And check out our blog, published daily, at freehawaii.info. It's all part of the Free Hawaii Broadcasting Network.